going on, everybody? Welcome back to the OIG Podcast. A topic today, you probably maybe heard the terminology. For some, this might be the first time hearing this. This is called a required minimum distribution. Getting a little fun of myself there. I'm Max Messett here with Kevin Orsinger. I always like to make sure we at least get that in there. But this episode is about required minimum distribution. Shorthand on that is RMDs. And I'll let Kevin kind of get into it to start. But it comes around with investment accounts, a lot of pre-tax accounts that we talk about. So Kevin, go ahead and get us started into something like this.
Yeah, probably one of the more confusing things for investors. A lot of bad information out there. I can remember one point in time, my father had said to me, the RMD amount is 10% every year.
Yeah.
And in spite of the fact I'd been in the business about 15 years, refused to believe me. And I told him that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Required minimum distribution at today's rules begins at age 73. So if you have 401k, 403b, 457, more commonly a traditional IRA account, those accounts have never been taxed. So that money went in on a pre-tax basis.
Yeah.
And that money has grown tax deferred for 20, 30, 40, 50 years potentially. And the required minimum distribution ultimately is the IRS's means of forcing you to take money from those accounts, which then becomes subject to income tax. So the IRS gets their pound of flesh.
As always, right? As always, they never miss that chance. If there's a chance for it, they will always make sure they have a hand in the pot. So
doesn't matter who else benefits from it as long as they benefit from it too.
Yep.
In today's rules, age 73, if you have not turned 73 by age 2033, the new RMD age is 75 at that stage. I realize we're a few years away from that, but they are required. They absolutely have to happen. There's a penalty of up to 25% on any amount that you did not take out up to your required minimum distribution dollar amount. Once you've made those distributions, those taxable distributions, the IRS does not care what you do with that money.
Yeah.
You can light it on fire, you can spend it, you can put it in a bank account. We have a lot of clients that just reinvest that amount into something else, but you're going to want to pay attention to this, make sure you're doing it. Ideally, if you're working with an advisory firm, they've got this data and they're keeping an eye on it for you and making sure you take it when you should take it.
Yeah. With that too, I think like you talked about with the penalty coming out, I know I've heard sometimes with clients with people talking about stuff like this, as long as I took some money out of my IRA, it doesn't matter. You have to make sure that there is a number that is set for the RMD. It is not, if you don't take any money, as long as you take some, you're in good shape. There is a required number that you have to hit. So always remember that, because if you don't get that entire number out of the account, you will pay penalty on the portion that you did not get out. That would still have to come out. So I just know that we've had conversation. I personally have had conversation, and some individuals sometimes just think that as long as they're taking any money out, that suffices. That is not the case. It is run with a factor, depending on your account value, and a factor that comes into play to get your annual number that has to come out. And this isn't something you can just turn your head to that, hey, I'm 73 and I'm going to act like I'm 72 for 5 more years because I don't want to do this. You got to make sure you're staying ahead of it, because you have to do this if you have one of these tax deferred accounts that is going to require some RMD to come out and the IRS to get some taxes off of it.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to, how do I know how much needs to come out? I understand I have to take something. Hey, Kevin and Max, how do I know?
Yeah.
So it's based on a few things. It's based on your IRA account balances. So if you have more than one IRA, it kind of includes all of them. Your IRA account balances from the previous year. So, we're in 2026. So it would be your December 31st of 2025 account balance, year-end close. And then a multiplier. And at age 73, that multiplier is 26.5, which equates to about 3.8%, to give you a ballpark figure, that your distribution has to equal around 3.8% of your account balance on December 31st of the previous year. So, someone that has a $500,000 IRA account If you do the math, you're looking at, I did it earlier, a little bit over $18,800 that is
Yeah.
required to come out of IRA accounts during the current year. And it doesn't matter from the IRS standpoint if you take it out January 1st of this year or December 31st of this year or anywhere in between.
Yeah.
It just needs to come out. You will receive a 1099-R tax document that says how much was taken out. Did you have any taxes withheld from that? We usually suggest or recommend for clients that you do have some taxes withheld from that distribution because it is subject to income tax. And then as you get older, and this is kind of one of those things most people don't realize, that multiplier changes. They're all based on mortality tables. So as you get older, that 3.8% in year one continues to grow. At age 80, it's almost 5%.
Right.
So, 7 years later, and then you're in the 7-8% range when you're around 90. So, it goes up significantly. And ideally, if your account values continue to grow too, it becomes not a problem, but it becomes a higher taxable amount every single year. But as Max said, it's not a guesstimate. It's not a, well, I took some, so I should be covered. There is math that is done. There is a specific to the penny dollar amount that you need to take out the following year. You can always take out more. If your required minimum distribution is $18,800 and you want to take out $20,000, that is perfectly fine. But you cannot take out any less than that, or you get yourself subjected to penalties, which nobody wants to have to pay.
Yeah. Also, it doesn't matter when it comes out, guys. As long as it's in that year that the required minimum distribution has been run for, it can come out as you might need or want that money. I know we have clients that take it out beginning of the year, more springtime, early summer. It's their summer money that they, decide that if this has to come out, we'll use it for some trips or whatever. And then we have clients that take it in November, December, right? Because it's like, might as well leave that money in there as long as possible to, if there's growth or whatever, to allow that account to grow. But that there's no time frame on that as long as it's out before that December 31st of the end of, so let's say for 26, if you have an R&D, before December 31st of this year, that money has to be coming out of that account. And then in 2027, you will have a new figure that will come into play. Not a one-time thing. This is an ongoing, every year you have a new RMD to take care of. So make sure you're keeping an eye on that, getting that money out, getting tax paid on it, and just staying ahead of it. You don't want to fall behind. And, last thing you want to do is forget for a year, 2 years, and next thing you know, you got penalty put on top of it, and you're just, that's just not a fun conversation to have and a fun feeling, because it can happen. It absolutely can happen. And
we've had people come in before that have had their money elsewhere.
Yeah.
And they're 76 years old, and you talk about required minimum distributions with them, and they just have this blank look on their face.
Yeah.
And you start digging a little deeper. Well, how much have you taken out each of the last 2 years? That's your requirement. Not a dime. Haven't taken a penny out. Oh boy.
Yeah. And I don't want to go into any sort of, go into the weeds of this, but that also affects other things in your life as far as having a higher tax if you end up having to take more out at one time. We've made, I'm sure, some podcast mentions of how that affects taxable sides of things with taxable accounts and income related, all that good stuff. And again, I don't want to get in the weeds because we will go off a tangent on some of that stuff. I know we will. So I'm just trying to reel in there, but that's just something you don't want to do, guys. Make sure you're keeping an eye on that, getting a good feel, and plan ahead. Know that, hey, I do think I want to take my RMDs at this time of the year, and you can set that up. We do with clients all the time. You can set it up in the system, so it's automatically going to come out. It's not forgot about. It's taken care of, and you expect it. It's not a surprise. There's no, I didn't know I was getting this. Everybody's aware of it, and that's how you're staying connected with your money, right, Kevin? That's what we talk about.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what accounts are affected by this, Max? You want to give us a little headlines?
Yep. So you got your traditional IRAs, your SEP IRAs, any of your, I'll keep it general here, any of your tax deferred accounts that you have, even your employer sponsored plans, your 401ks, your 403bs, money that's gone in pre-tax and has grown tax deferred and now will come out and you will have to pay tax on it, will have an RMD attached to it. One thing I do want to hit on with these accounts, though, because we have clients that, maybe you have multiple IRAs or tax deferred accounts. You can satisfy an RMD with taking it out of one account. So even your traditional IRAs, if you have, let's say, two IRAs and you haven't consolidated for whatever reason, or maybe two different spots, however that plays out for you, they each have their own RMD, but you can suffice that number out of one account. Employer sponsored plans, not the case there. They all have their separate ones and they have to come out of that account. But with that, you just gotta, I think that's the confusion. And that's a lot of times why we talk about consolidation, because there can be situations where you have money floating around in different spots. Maybe you have an old rollover you haven't touched, or you have, you like to do something by your own investments and you have somebody you work with and you have two different accounts. You got to make sure you're keeping your ducks in a row with those, because those are easy to get mixed up. And it's not just, oh, I covered the RMD for my IRA over here. This one over here is still going to have an RMD attached with it, as long as you're, that 73 number that's going to start to tick that over the edge.
And the IRS does not care how you do it. There's an amount that needs to come out. There's an amount that needs to be subject to taxes. And if you take it all out of one IRA, fantastic. If you have three IRAs and you do it equally, they do not care. The IRS is great for every rule. There's 142 exceptions. And there's one, there's one for the IRAs. And that is, if you are of required minimum distribution age, but you are still working and still contributing to your 401k, and only the 401k for that current employer, you are able to kick your RMDs down the road for that account only. So, I decide I'm going to continue working in Orsinger Investment Group, and I'm 73 years old and I'm at required minimum distribution age. I do not need to make a required minimum distribution out of my 401k. But if I have a separate IRA account sitting somewhere, I am required to make that distribution from that IRA. So listen, if you've done things correctly and we've helped you correctly, you're not working at 73 for any other reason than you want to. You love doing it. You couldn't see yourself doing anything else. That's fantastic. You'll benefit from this. But hopefully that would be the only reason that you are working at that stage. We won't get into the deep part of this, but not included on here, but also subject to RMD rules are beneficiary or inherited IRAs. So if you happen to have inherited money from a spouse, a parent, whatever, if the person you inherited from have begun their RMDs, you will need to continue RMDs when you inherit that money. Again, it's a little different story with inherited IRAs today. The rules are different, but just keep in mind that required minimum distributions are part of those accounts moving forward. So it's not just money that you work hard and saved through your life and into retirement. It's also any account that you would inherit from somebody else that is an IRA type. Because,
and I would touch on that too, Kevin, of the importance of working with a financial professional, especially in those areas. I know we have dealt with clients that have inherited money like that. And that can be a confusing factor to that, of the age of the person that has passed, how that got passed along, the rules with it. There is certain rules that come along, they're no longer that stretch. There's 10-year rules that come into play of getting money out on top of those RMDs. So again, there is a lot of moving parts. I would highly recommend that if you're somebody that has inherited money recently or is going to, or, however that is, to please touch base. Obviously, Kevin and myself are always willing to talk to you guys about this stuff and give you help. But I would highly recommend talking to somebody about it, because there is a lot of details that come along. Even if you're somebody that's going to be 73 and you haven't had the time to sit down with anybody, and maybe you've done your own stuff, or you have some 401ks that, hey, I just finished up working, just obviously we'd love to talk to you, but talk to somebody to make sure you have your ducks in a row about your RMD. I would say those inherited accounts, though, can get a lot more tricky. So just, keep that in mind, that if you're somebody in that situation, because we see that quite a bit, and we see that there is a lot of moving parts with them as well.
Yeah, we'll usually start the RMD conversation with clients when they're around 70 or 71, just, kind of letting them know, hey, this is coming. This is part of your future. Based on today's figures, this is about how much you're going to need to take out, and just start to prep people for the inevitability of it. More often than not, people don't need the money. More often than not, people reinvest it in a non-IRA or brokerage type account. but at least it's not getting dropped on you in the year you turn 73 of, oh, by the way, you've got to take out $27,000 this year.
Yeah.
What the heck are you talking about stuff?
Yeah. So I will hit on real quick, Kevin, if anybody's on here watching and they're like, IRS, accounts coming out, money's getting paid, taxes, all this nonsense, Roth IRAs don't have RMDs attached to them. Just to let everybody know that. I know we've talked about it. Thrown a little thing in here for that. If you're on the younger generation or somebody that's in that middle stage, it's like, hey, I don't want the IRS getting my money. Just a little pivot there that you can think about. Really put some thought to that, because there's an opportunity to keep more of your money when that time comes. So just
and if you're older and maybe don't have a Roth, it's probably time to discuss a Roth conversion.
Yeah,
of how do we turn this taxable IRA money into down the line non-taxable Roth money. And we'll have a breakdown of Roth conversions over the next, we'll call it 2 months or 2 weeks to a month. Probably we'll have one on here. So keep your eyes out for that. Yeah. But you want to give us our quick update?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So required minimum distribution, guys, this is the amount of money that's going to have to come out of these tax deferred accounts when you hit age 73. And for some going forward will now be 75. But for right now, we're going to stick to that 73 number. So we don't push anybody past the age that they might need to. RMDs are calculated based on the year prior's December 31st value with a life factor, a life expectancy factor from the IRS, and a little magic thrown in there as well of how these numbers pop up. No, they're just calculated out. Make sure you know your number, get an idea what it is, and be prepared to take it out, and make sure you do so. That's the biggest thing. Take action and get that money out, because you'll need to avoid any penalty that would be with it. All those tax deferred accounts, your traditional IRA, SEP IRA, simple IRA, all those employer sponsor plans that you've put money into for a long time. Great tax, advantages up front, but now that money's going to start coming out, those will be the ones that are affected with these RMDs. And like always, I think we talk a lot about working with somebody. I know it's not on the slide here that you're seeing, but stay connected with your money, stay ahead of things, know what's coming, and be prepared. I think that's a great way to end this one, is to be prepared. Don't let this catch you by surprise.
Yeah, and it does not matter if you have a $10,000 IRA or a $10 million IRA. Exactly. Everyone has to participate in these distributions. So there is no rule for getting out of it or situation for getting out of it. So make sure, Max has said this before on this, if you have some topics that you've got interest in, drop us a line. We're happy to, we talk about the things we think are important to people, but we may be missing something. So if there's something you want to talk about or hear about, drop us a line and we'll put together a podcast for, again, our goal here is to educate, provide information for people. Hopefully we're taking confusing topics or difficult topics and making them a little easier to understand. But you can catch this if you're on YouTube or Spotify, the others available for you. And then also we've got all the main social media platforms. Stay connected to us. We hope to continue to educate, and we hope to be there when you have a need. Ultimately, that's our goal here, is if there's something we talked about has sparked something in you and you want to have some deeper discussions, or your situation has changed financially and you'd like to talk, we'd like to be here to talk with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. All right, till we see you next time. Thanks.
Appreciate you guys.
See ya.